This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
EU seeks to find lasting solutions to Africa's illegal migration. Libya and Turkey spark regional tension with a water border agreement. And we look at a popular West African game to be part of Africa Games in 2023. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live and I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi. Also coming up in the programme, African leaders urge to increase funding for HIV programs. And we look at an exhibition seeking to tell South Africa's long journey to democracy. We begin in Ethiopia, and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says her administration will continue working closely with Africa to find lasting solutions to illegal migration. The EU continues to raise concern over migrants who risk their lives to cross the Mediterranean Sea to reach Europe. Von der Leyen is in Ethiopia for an official visit to the country and the African Union Commission. CGTN's Coletta Wanjohi reports now from Addis Ababa.
The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who was elected in July this year, says she discussed illegal migration from Africa to Europe when she met the AU Commission Chairperson Moussa Faki Mahamat.
Together, we can find answers. Together, we can find and build solutions that work for Africa and for Europe alike.
An October UN report shows 1,970 migrants from 39 African countries in 13 European nations all declared that they had arrived in Europe through irregular means. Europe has been funding job creation projects in some African countries with the aim to reduce the number of illegal migration attempts to Europe through the Mediterranean Sea. Ethiopia is one such country. In January, the European Union gave Ethiopia over $55 million to support job creation projects. Today, the European Commission President has met with Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and extended a package worth over $187 million, of which $11 million will go towards job creation. The African Union says beyond just illegal migration, issues like youth education and employment, health projects, peace and security issues, as well as good governance are areas where the two unions could continue focusing on. They agreed to this when they met in 2017.
The fact that the newly elected President of the European Commission chose that her first visit outside of Europe would be to Addis and to the African Union, I think is an illustration of the importance of the strategic partnership, and also ahead of our Commission-to-Commission meetings this year, which will culminate in the EU summit.
The two unions are set to meet in February 2020 in Brussels to review their agreements since 2017. Coletta Wanjohi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Libya's government of national accord and Turkey have sparked tension in the East Mediterranean region with a water border agreement. President Erdogan and the head of the GNA, Fayez al-Sarraj, have signed an MOU which affects the water border agreement between Greece, Cyprus and Egypt. A diplomatic row has followed, with Greece expelling the Libyan ambassador on Friday. CGTN's Adel El-Mahrouhi has more.
Turkey and Libya's internationally recognized government of national accord have signed security and water border agreements. With it, the two countries recognize a joint maritime border in the Mediterranean Sea. The agreement outraged Egypt, Cyprus and Greece.
Egypt, Greece and Cyprus have drawn the water borders between them based on the UN's Sea Border Agreement. The MOU between Turkey and GNA ignores that. That will definitely infuse more crises in the Mediterranean.
For Ankara, it's great to get recognition from another country to its increasing interests in the East Mediterranean.
Turkey benefits greatly from this political agreement. It enables Turkey to expand its influence in the East Mediterranean and North Africa. Turkey gets rights to search for oil and gas in sovereign territories, and it also benefits militarily and economically in Libya.
Al-Sarraj's eastern rivals have been in an 8-month-long non-stop pursuit to seize his capital, Tripoli. The agreement gives the GNA a great opportunity to forge a deeper partnership with Turkey. With its armed support, Sarraj's backing militias have been able to push LNA forces back.
This MOU aims to give legitimacy to the flow of Turkish arms to the militias backing Fayez al-Sarraj. Therefore, it is complicating the field battles and diminishing hopes for political solutions in Libya.
Diplomatic tension have already begun. A war of statements between the countries in dispute have followed the announcement of the MOUs. It escalated last Friday, with Greece expelling the Libyan ambassador.
In the near future, it doesn't seem that violence will fade in Libya. The Turkish arms has spread the areas of conflicts. It's empowering the Misrata militias and puts many civilians there under threat. Both Libyan parties are trying to justify their stance to the international community. Both of them are in a race to appeal to Washington, which they believe will help them get more international support.
This Mediterranean row will only make regional powers hold stronger to the parties they support in the Libyan conflict, each betting on the slim chance that when their allies win this civil war, that will help tip the scale in the battle for oil and gas in the East Mediterranean. But so far, this approach has been only fueling the conflict in Libya. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
To Rwanda now, where delegates at the just concluded International Conference on AIDS and STIs in Africa have urged African leaders to increase domestic funding on healthcare in order to keep HIV programs running. This, they say, would accelerate efforts to end the HIV epidemic in Africa. CGTN's Wilkista Nyabwa reports.
As people from Middle East, North Africa.
After a week of intense discussions, the International Conference on AIDS and STIs is drawing to an end, but the work is only just beginning. During the sessions, delegates shared news of the gains made in their countries in efforts to attain an Africa free of HIV and AIDS. Globally, there are 37.9 million people living with HIV. The majority are African. In recent years, governments have committed to ensuring that at least 90% of persons with HIV know their status and access treatment, but large gaps still remain in the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of HIV. Adolescent girls, for example, still make up a large section of new infections.
We need to empower our girls and young women and their partners with the information, skills, services, and self-efficacy to make responsible sexual and reproductive health choices and to act on them for HIV prevention and from unintended pregnancies and STIs.
Countries which have had success have employed strategies such as self-testing for HIV, advocating for voluntary male medical circumcision, and providing services to key populations which include the transgender community, sex workers, prisoners, and men who have sex with men. Scientific advancements such as drugs to prevent HIV infection and new antiretroviral drug combinations have also changed the course of the epidemic. However, funding these services still remains a major concern.
Unless we increase our domestic funding, we are not going to achieve the targets that we set for ourselves, either in 2020 or in 2030. We mustn't forget the Abuja commitment of 15% of the budget of your nations to the health of the nation.
And with all the initiatives in place as the world searches for a cure, it is this one piece that could make a major difference.
My hope is that we take the ideas and discussions made here this week and turn them into actions.
The commitments have been made, What remains now is to put in the work so that when delegates assemble yet again for the next international conference on AIDS and STIs to be held in 2021, they will be able to review the results of this gathering. Wilkis Anyabwa, CGTN in Kigali, Rwanda.
Now to Algeria, where there have been 42 weeks of protests calling for an end to the power held by the ruling elite. However, just a few days to the December the 12th election, aspiring candidates engaged in a televised debate. CGTN's Jane Keogh has more.
5 candidates, all of whom are former senior officials, went head-to-head in a televised debate.
The party law is the #1 priority. The electoral law is the second, and for political engagement to be free from corruption, we must regulate the issue of corruption and its interference in political life.
Freedoms and rights must be consecrated. Freedom of expression, of thought, of the press, and freedom to present initiatives that at times may clash with the ruling power, all must be valued.
I will start an inclusive debate and seek help from constitutional experts and all political classes that will result in a national referendum that will lead us to a constitution worthy of the Algerian people.
The debate was held as tens of thousands of Algerians were leaving an earlier protest. Some of them tuned in.
95% of the Algerians will not vote. We're protesting every Friday. We are not going out for a walk or to talk. We have demands and they have not responded to them yet.
We want elections in an open political atmosphere with candidates we could help to win, not like these imposed ones.
The upcoming election has been a bone of contention for Algerians who have protested for 42 weeks since February. They are calling for the ruling elite to step down from power. Dozens of senior former officials and businessmen have been arrested, many of them associated with former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. All this in efforts to try and appease the protesters' anger, but it's not enough.
They haven't responded to popular demands yet. We say they have to leave. The old regime has to go so we can go into transparent and healthy elections. No one is against the elections, but not in these conditions.
Algerians are not backing down even a few days to the poll until all their demands are met. Jane Keogh, CGTN.
We are going to a short break now, lots more to come, including a new exhibition opens in Cape Town to tell the story of South Africa's long journey to democracy. And we look at a popular West African game to be part of Africa Games in 2023.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
To South Africa now, where a powerful new exhibition has opened in Cape Town. The exhibition tells the story of the country's long journey to democracy. The Long Walk to Freedom is an outdoor display of 100 life-size bronze statues of the men and women who played a pivotal role in bringing about freedom for all South Africans. CGTN's Travis Andrews has more with this report.
It started with Ashimato and ended with Nelson Mandela. The Long Walk to Freedom is a 350-year journey that celebrates the heroes of South Africa's liberation struggle. The installation tells the story of those who fought to end the oppressive system of colonialism and then apartheid, which has ultimately led to the South Africa of today.
It being an outdoor exhibition, the whole essence of people on a journey to liberation. And people know that each statue symbolizes thousands of others who we are not able to portray. So Nelson Mandela symbolizes his generation. Same with Makoma, the warrior king, symbolizes that generation. So it's a beautiful story. You come here and you're surrounded by these human rights activists.
Famous figures include the Mandela and Tambo families, as well as the earliest freedom fighters. Even Fidel Castro makes an appearance.
We've got about 100 statues for now, and our selection, our criteria that we use, it's people who have passed on and who also contributed to our liberation struggle of South Africa, irrespective of where they come from, the country, it doesn't matter.
The contribution women played in the country's 300-year path to liberation are also honored. It's easy to see why this exhibition stirs up such a lot of emotion. Not only are they lifelike, but some of the actual clothes were used and bronze to be part of each individual installation. And 500 of these bronze statues are in the pipeline, including other world figures that played an important role in South Africa's history.
One of the people we'll be putting into this procession in the future is Chairman Mao Zedong. And others from China who contributed to our struggle for democracy. They were fellow freedom fighters. They fought with us. They gave us arms. They gave us boots for our troops. They gave us educational and other assistance. So we are brothers and sisters in terms of the struggle that was fought.
But although the exhibition has already been lauded as an installation that is not only immersive and emotive, but sets a powerful tone of self-reflection for anyone who values the true cost of attaining a free and democratic society. That's Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
A traditional West African game popular among young girls is on its way to winning a place as part of the Africa Games in 2023. Enthusiasts hope that it could even become an Olympic sport. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports now from Accra.
Joanna Adu and her friends while away the time playing their favorite sport, ampe. The traditional game involves jumping and clapping and requires coordination of the feet. Players earn points depending on whose leg meets the opposite leg of the opponent first.
We enjoy playing ampe. We play whenever we come back from school.
Traditionally played by schoolgirls, Ghanaians say the sport originated in their country and was first played by older women in their spare time.
I remember playing ampe as a child and I really enjoyed it. Ampe will continue to be passed on from one generation to another.
The game requires no equipment and is still popular despite the introduction of electronic games.
For these girls, ampe is pure entertainment, but it can also be a form of exercise.
Ampe is now played across West Africa, from Nigeria to Sierra Leone. It's been adopted by the 2023 Africa Games competition to be held in Ghana. But first, the participating countries need to agree on a common set of rules.
For now, we have the rules and regulations. We have ours, Benin have theirs, and then they all have ours. But after we finish going around, before it's going to be accepted, we have to get 8 countries coming up to accept the rules and regulations.
Once the rules and regulations for the traditional sport are adopted by the 8 participating African countries, it will clear the way for girls like Joanna Adu to compete in international games. They will not only play ampe to entertain themselves, but also to win laurels for their country. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
We've got all the sports news coming up for you after the break, including FKF President Nick Mwendwa abides by Sports Dispute Tribunal ruling as court orders repeat of FKF elections. The Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa has accepted the decision to cancel the national elections that were due to be held on Saturday, where he's seeking a second term. Well, earlier this week, the country's Sports Disputes Tribunal nullified the FKF branch polls held on the 23rd of November, as well as the national exercise, sparking fears of a possible FIFA ban over state interference in the running of the sport. However, in a press briefing, Mwendwa promised to abide by the ruling as much as he does not agree with it. Well, according to the Federation chief, a new electoral code will be passed at a special general meeting next month. This will pave the way for the constitution of a new electoral board that will be mandated to call for fresh elections. All football activities will continue as planned in the meantime.
We respect the Special Dispute Tribunal. We respect their decision. We do not agree with most of its decisions, but we have been to that court many times. We have subjected ourselves to that court, to that tribunal for the last 4 years, and every time it has made a decision, we have complied to that decision. In good faith and having considered the same, we are not going to appeal. We shall go back and execute FKF elections again.
Over to Egypt now, where the Court of Arbitration for Sports has rejected Egypt's weightlifting federation's appeal on its suspension for doping. The decision now means EWF's suspension has become final, making it the biggest doping scandal for Egypt in recent years, and one that has now officially seen the team kicked out of next year's Olympic Games in Tokyo. CG10's Adel El Marhouhi looks at how the scandal has affected the country's most successful sport.
For 2 years, Egypt's most winning team will not be participating in any international events. The sanctions are final. This week, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has dismissed the nation's appeal on a doping scandal dating back to 2016.
7 players from the junior team tested positive for doping. It was nearly impossible to appeal that. Egypt thought it could appeal because the decision was taken 2 years after the incident. I think what made it more difficult is that recently 5 senior players tested positive for doping, including Sarah Samir, who's an Olympic medalist.
This means no Tokyo for the team responsible for nearly half of Egypt's Olympic medals. And with the senior team scandal emerging last October, Egypt's ban could stretch beyond these 2 years. In any case, what Egypt's weightlifting team has built in decades will probably vanish.
Our rankings will be destroyed. The players who have experience now, or those who are promising, their careers could be over. Luckily, weightlifting is about numbers, so the federation could work with the cadets and get them ready. Still, many fear it's a replication to Russia, whose reputation has been tarnished and still cannot play.
Furious of CAS's decision, Egyptian Sports Ministry and the Egyptian Olympics Committee say they will keep pursuing a legal way out. They insist the banned doping substance was not administered on purpose.
Egypt's reputation in weightlifting is under questioning, and no one can help but wonder how were the previous medals won. Unfortunately, honest athletes like Egypt's iconic Mohamed Ihab, who would have been a medal hopeful in Tokyo, are the ones paying the price for the wrongdoings of their teammates. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
In the English Premier League, Everton beat Chelsea 3-1 in their first match since the departure of former manager Mark